I'm Terry Klopfenstein, Professor Emeritus from the Animal Science Department at the University of Nebraska. I've worked with beef cattle for 50 years at the university, and my topic today was about beef cattle production in North America. And of course, I know a little bit more about the U.S. than Canada and Mexico, but there are a lot of similarities. And so it's a broad topic, but I worked at trying to get to some generalizations about the industry. And I think about beef cows in Florida. We think of Florida maybe as the coast, but inland in Florida with a lot of cows. And then all of the southeast, Mississippi, Tennessee, and fescue grass to Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and wheat pasture, the plain states, and then the western states, the intermountain states. Interestingly, the majority of the cattle are in the central part of the country and kind of the plain states, including, if you would, Missouri and southern Iowa. And I tried to look at some of the similarities and then some of the differences. And I segmented it into the three basic segments of beef production: cow-calf, backgrounding, and feedlot. And in the cow-calf sector, there's a lot of similarities when you think about it. Cattle graze much of the year in most of these places, and then the rest of the year they're on harvested forage, so that the primary input into the cow-calf sector is forage. I did calculations on that, and to produce finished beef out of our feedlots, about 80% of the feed that goes into producing that is forage. And so we oftentimes think about our feedlots from Texas to Nebraska, et cetera, and that we're feeding a lot of grain, but the fact is about 80% of the feed is forage. I think that's important for us to think about. Much of that is grazed forage, not even harvested. I don't know what that percentage is, but it's high. The interesting sector is the backgrounding sector. That's in between cow-calf production and the feedlot phase. That's the one that varies. And the point is, cattle are staged so that they go to market out of our feedlots every week. And they're staged primarily through the backgrounding phase. That's where the variation exists. It's like grazing in many places, wheat pasture, and in Nebraska, for example, the real advantage is in our corn residue as our forage, and then grazing of that, and that's the least expensive way to background cattle. And then of course we've got grass in the summer. But so many different systems for backgrounding to stage cattle for feedlots. Now the byproduct out of the ethanol industry is probably what's affected all of this the most. Those byproducts really go together very well with the corn residue to supply protein and some additional energy. And so that's changed the industry dramatically. Has moved the cattle feeding industry further north because of competitiveness of the ethanol industry and the corn production in the northern states. Now, the feedlot industry is also much like the cow-calf industry. It's pretty consistent. We feed a lot of grain, byproducts, and a little bit of forage. And so you put all of this together, and the part of the segment that is really different is the backgrounding segment and how it helps to stage cattle for the feedlot industry so cattle can be finished on a weekly basis. And the backgrounding segment is able to utilize this whole variety of feedstuffs that cattle can use. And that comes back to maybe the important point. The uniqueness of ruminant animals is their ability to utilize forage, fiber, the microbial population in the rumen that helps them to digest fibers from forages primarily, but also from some byproducts that are fibrous that pigs and chickens and humans don't utilize very well. That's what's great about the beef cattle industry, that we can use all of these products that are not really usable by other animals and humans. And so we need to focus on that's the uniqueness of the beef cattle industry. All of the things that we can use. Much of that is forage, and some of it is some byproducts.